Hello team, it is Gina Brooks with the Proteus Human Resources Department. Today we are going to talk about the importance of leading by example. So we're going to go over 4 different things. One is we're going to discuss why it's important to walk the talk as leaders. Number 2, why the do as I say, not as I do, or double standard management style does not work. Number 3, how do you know you have not done your job as a leader? And number 4, how can you walk the talk in your office? So, as you know, I always start off all of my videos and articles with a quote, and today's quote is, "Before you are a leader, success is all about growing yourself. When you become a leader, success is all about growing others." So how do you grow others? It's simple. You grow others by leading by example and walking the talk. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to start with, what does it look like to not walk the talk? So what is an example of that? And what does that mean? What does it mean to not walk the talk? It basically is when a supervisor or leader does not exempt themselves from the same rules and expectations that they give their employees. So for example, an employee is required by their supervisor to report to work on time each day, but the supervisor takes advantage of their exempt status and either comes in late or leaves early every day. Doesn't set quite the right example, right? That is a leader who's not walking the talk. They're setting a completely separate standard for themselves than they are requiring of their employees. So why is it important to walk the talk as a leader? Well, for one thing, being a leader does not exempt you from the same expectations that you set for your employees. So you set the pace, leaders. You have an elevated responsibility, in fact, to lead by example, because it is the leaders of the corporation that determines the corporate culture, right? So why is it important that we set the standards and set the pace for the corporation? Well, honestly, the number one reason employees leave a corporation, it's not for their job or what they do or the money and benefits. It is because of the leaders. It's because of the managers. And that is a very scary statistics when you think about it. In fact, I came up with this topic because about a year ago, I wrote a workplace blog article from a question that I received from an employee. Could be in Proteus, could be outside, I'm not sure. But the employee asked, why is there hypocrisy in managers who don't follow the same set of rules or expectations that they give their employee? Well, for some reason, that particular article got a lot of attention and it really resonated with people inside of Proteus and outside of Proteus. So it made me think that this might be a bigger problem or concern than I originally thought. And that's why we're kind of discussing that today. So why doesn't the do as I say and not as I do management style not work? Well, for one thing, your employees won't respect you. They won't trust you. They won't mirror the behavior that you're setting. In fact, or they will mirror the behavior that you're setting if it's negative, right? It's just like growing our children. They look at us for setting their value system. And regardless if you're an adult or a child, we look towards those that lead us to set the pace, to set the expectations, to set what we will follow. Okay? So how do you know you've not done your job as leaders? Well, I'm going to go over 4 different things that I think is important. And I think they're good ways of recognize if maybe you need to do a reset and reevaluate your leadership skills. Because if any of these things are happening, you're probably not doing your job as a leader. Okay? And the number one, you know what I mean. The number one thing is having bad habits. I talk a lot with employees and supervisors and leaders, and so I know a lot of the dynamics that happen in offices. And when I see certain patterns that happen in offices or complaints in certain offices, it makes me question the bad habits that have formed in that department or office. So let's say you have a lot of your staff members who have time and attendance issues. My question to that leader would be, how is your time and attendance? Are you at work on time? Are you at work till 5? Are you setting the pace for your office? If there's a lot of conflict in the office, could that mean that the supervisor is not taking care to hold staff accountable? Are they not looking at themselves and how their behavior and how they talk to their employees into consideration? Those are all things to look at. Another thing to know that you're not doing your job as a leader is if your employees don't value personal and professional growth. And you should be mirroring that as well, because as a leader doesn't mean that your personal and professional growth has ended. In fact, I think it's just the start of your personal and professional growth. So if your employees show no interest in school or going to webinars or trainings, and you're not encouraging them to, then you are not doing your job as a leader, okay? So number 3 would be if they don't feel comfortable sharing ideas, new ideas, creative ideas with you, or any complaints or concerns or recommendations to improve processes in your department, then you're not doing your job as a leader. You should be encouraging new ideas, idea sharing. You should be encouraging the values and importance of new ideas and sharing by practicing that yourself, meaning you should be coming up with new ideas and getting your staff excited about developing new ideas and letting them participate in those new ideas. So if your staff is not sharing new ideas with you, you are not doing your job as a leader, okay? So my favorite one, and it's kind of really not my favorite, but I think it's the most telling one that you're not doing your job as a leader, is if your staff is shocked by a poor evaluation, by a poor verbal or written reprimand or improvement plan that you've given them, and worse, if they are shocked, if they are terminated, you have not done your job. An employee should never be shocked, ever, by any critique or poor rating, ever, because that means that you didn't share with them, A, maybe the expectations, B, did you even go over your expectations and critique with them, C, did you give them a training plan or mentor them to improve upon those skills before you recommended termination or gave them a poor evaluation? This should be communicated throughout your employees' years with you. You should be continuously meeting with them to go over your expectations and areas that you hope they can show some improvement. And then obviously you always want to share accolades and acknowledge accomplishments as well. Okay, so how can you walk the talk in your office? And you can start today. I'm hoping you will. Join me on this walk. Because if you're like me, you need to walk. Okay, so I digress. Okay, so how do you walk the talk in your office? Okay, so let's do this. If you ask your employee to do something, make sure you do it yourself. It's kind of a no-brainer, really. I mean, if you're going to ask your employees to stay after work to do a special project after 5 o'clock, but you're rolling out of your office to go golfing or shopping at 3, doesn't look good. You stay past 5. Deal? Okay. Number 2, if you give yourself a special opportunity to attend a conference or a training or some kind of other learning experience that would give value to your employee, let them attend those as well. In fact, I encourage you to let them go in your place. Let them go in your place. Let them experience what it feels like to be a leader and maybe go to a conference that they've never been able to attend. Okay? Number 3, if you implement a policy or rule or expectation in your office, please, I beg of you, follow the same set of rules. And we can use that same example of time and attendance. If you're going to leave at 5 o'clock, if you're going to stay past 5 o'clock and work on a special project or something, it actually could backfire on you if you don't at least ask some of your employees, would they like to participate in that? If you're going to leave early, you better have a good reason, because they might not say anything, but I guarantee you they are talking amongst themselves and maybe to other managers about your office practices, okay? And last, monitor your own behavior. Are you being negative and never listening to people or interrupting them when they talk, but then you get on to staff for not listening and not following directions? Let's work on our behavior. Let's work on being the type of people that all of our staff will want to follow, okay? So I'm going to leave you with this, okay? I'm going to leave you leaders with this one important thing, and I hope that I hope it resonates, okay? You set the pace. You do. Your example sets the pace on how this corporate culture is developed and how your staff are going to react based on your actions. So, if you set the pace as a leader, ask yourself, are you being a good example? Anyway, until next time, and I hope to talk to you next time about servant leadership. It's the polar opposite of the do as I say, not as I do leadership style, which I invite all of you to join me next week. Anyway, toodles. Bye.